Security is a crucial part of any infrastructure configuration since it allows us to secure data and operations from harmful users. It also aids in preventing illegal system access. Because a cloud architecture is entirely based on the internet, it necessitates high level of security to safeguard sensitive data from assaults such as DDoS and impersonation. These security measures are available as a collection of managed services on AWS. So without any further ado, let's get started right away. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, I want to request you to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any new update or video releases from Great Learning. If you enjoyed this video, show us some love and like this video. Knowledge increases by sharing, so make sure you share this video with your friends and colleagues. Make sure to comment on the video for any query or suggestions and I will respond to your comments.
So guys, let us now go ahead and understand AWS Security Services. As I've already mentioned, when you talk about security, AWS gives you a special importance. I do mention that in many of my sessions that if you've not read the use case of Jeff Bezos, do go through it. What it tells is how Jeff Bezos or what came to the AWS founder's mind to actually go ahead and bring AWS to life. What are the struggles? What are the challenges that they had faced while doing that? One of the challenges was the security part. Now, if you talk about myths of AWS, one of the major concerns that people will put forth is that cloud is not secure enough or AWS is not secure enough, which is not true. I mean, if you talk about the way security is dealt with these days, it is very good. But if you go back to like 2010, 2011, 12, there were a lot of outages that used to happen, and the ones that happened in the time frame that I mentioned, there were some major ones where there was a lot of data loss and that caused a lot of problems. But after that, the way security is handled has changed a lot. As you can see on the screen, right, what it says that AWS offers shared security model to its consumers, right, or customers is what you can say. That means AWS controls few security aspects and some are controlled by you as a consumer. As a consumer, you get to control identity and access management of a security. So rest is not important. So basically what this point says is it gives you shared security model. Now that is one way of looking at the security perspective. So when you say shared security model, what it means is you get to control certain aspects of security as a consumer, and AWS as the owner controls some aspects from a vending perspective or a vendor perspective. Okay. So apart from that, what AWS also does is it takes care of both your physical and network security. So when you say physical security, we are talking about the data centers, right? One, as I mentioned, there are multiple data centers across the globe. You can always back up your data at different data centers. These data centers are like conditionally located at 60 kilometers, 40 kilometers apart from each other. That means even if one of the regions is struck by some natural calamity, it reaching the other region is very rare, the calamity. Okay. And if you backed up your data in the other region, there are more chances of your applications being available always. And it is like 99.99999% available. So that means in a year, an outage could be maximum to half an hour, right? So if you've been using the service for like 365 days, 24 hours, it could be half hour to the max that you might experience outage in total. So that also will not happen on a continuous basis. And this is an estimation that it could go to that level. Now, and anything you do across the globe is not 100% accurate, right? So that is a very good amount of availability, right? If you talk about these regions, physical security also means that these data centers are physically manned by people. They are guarded and governed by people physically 24/7. Not many know where do these data centers are located. So it's not that you know that there's a data center in Mumbai. You just move to Mumbai and you say to a taxi driver, take me to AWS data center. No, they can't do that. The locations are not known to everyone. There are few officials who know those locations and only few operators actually know where these data centers actually are. Even if you know the name of the region, you do not know where in that region those data centers are located. So talking about it from a physical security perspective, it is actually taken care of by AWS to a very great extent. What are the other aspects? Now, when you talk about network security, right? So you need firewalls that govern your resources when the data moves through network, right? So if it starts from a particular point, it should reach the other point, and there should be a guarding that happens at both points, right? So there are services that let you build firewalls and ensure that the data moves between the networks securely. There are services that let you encrypt your data as well to ensure that your data is safe and secure. There are also services that ensure the health checks, management of resources, deciding which resources or which area of the network is healthy for you to actually deploy your data there. So all these things are taken care by AWS. And then you have IAM as well. We'll talk about IAM in detail. Do not worry about that. This is one of those services which is very important when you take a look at it from an AWS perspective. So we'll discuss IAM in detail, and we'll also understand what are these other services that you see on the screen, right? So let's just go ahead and talk about them one by one. Yeah. So the first service on our plate is IAM. It is a security web service offered by AWS to ensure that users get access to resources at appropriate level of permissions, and it offers shared access, deals with user and group level accesses, and it also controls centralized and granular level accesses. Okay, let's just go ahead and understand these pointers a little more, right? So when you talk about IAM, okay, let me just write it down somewhere so that I can explain it better to you. So what do we do here? Let's just go ahead and open a notepad. So the pointers that we need to focus on are users, security groups, then you have roles, you also have policies. Okay, so let's try and talk about these a little, right, one by one. So let's assume that we have a server with us. Okay, so when you talk about a server, right, so basically when you say AWS, you have your application resting. So basically it is resting on one of the servers, right? One of the data centers that AWS has to offer to you. So when you talk about your data being put, so there is a virtual wall that has been built for you, right? Inside which you put in your data, right? So who gets to cross that wall and get access to this data, right? There would be users. Even when you talk about users, there are types in it, right? You have your administrators, right? You have your root user. You have your consumers. Your consumers can be anything, right? Administrators is one example. Other example of consumers can be your business analyst, who needs some analytic access to your data, right? Business analyst. It could be your web developer or a person who is more interested in GUI access, who gets to access only the GUI part of it. A developer who is more interested in programmatic access, right? So when you talk about a user is somebody who gets to access your resources, right? Let me take you to IAM to talk about these pointers a little more. So I'm going to open my console, AWS Management Console. It says sign into the console. I'm not logging back in. I'm saying sign into the... Okay, it has signed in by default. Let me log out. Now let me sign into my console. Please don't get me signed in right away. Okay, so guys, it says root user, right? I can also have an IAM user using which I can sign in. Okay, so for now, let's just go to root user. So root user is your main user for which you've created an account, right? So I have an account here. Let me just sign into my root user. So I've signed into my root user. Preferably, you should not use your root users if you are talking about an organizational level application, right? There would be multiple users in it. Root user should be used in cases where there are no other options left. You want to reset your passwords, you've lost your passwords, then you use your root user. What you do is you create an admin account, an admin account who has many accesses to the resources that you want to use, or the major accesses to the resources that you want to use. So let's just go ahead and open IAM here. Now IAM is nothing but your identity and access management service, right? You see, there are options here. Users, there's one that is created already. Visual Studio. Okay, so this was the This was for one of the demos I had created. So let me go ahead and add one more user. Let's call it Vishal, right? My name. What kind of access? See guys, you get to choose the kind of access do you want to give to your user, right? It can be your programmatic access. It can be your AWS management console access as well, right? Or you can give him both. So enables an access key ID and secret access for the API. Okay, I'll talk about this. Do not worry about that. And enables a password that allows the user to sign in, right? So I'm going to select programmatic. I need both accesses. So let these be there. Okay. Auto generated password. Do I want to generate one? No, let's use a custom one, right? And let's just say require user to reset. No. What this does is if I try to log in again, right, it would ask me to reset the password. I don't want that to happen. Let's say next. Okay, let's close this for now. Create a group. We'll do that later. Okay, next tags. Next. Previous. What kind of access do I want to have this person to have? Let's say administrator access. Next. And I say create a user. So guys, copy this data. This is very important. I'll tell you why this is important. Do not worry about that. So I'm going to copy this and keep it with me. Okay, let me just paste it here. Okay. And let me just go back and copy. When you say show, it will show this thing to you only once. Okay. So make sure you copy this and paste it somewhere. There you go. So I have it with me. So I say hide again. Okay, it shows again. No, that's not the thing that you get to see it only once. You can even ask somebody to mail it as well for your access. And I say close. Okay. So I have, this is MFA, that is multi-factor authentication. What multi-factor authentication does is when I try to log into my account, it would ask me to log in with more than one ingredient or more than one criteria, right? Say for example, I'll have to give in 2 deliverables to it. One would be my password, one can be an OTP that is generated to ensure double layer of security. So you can activate MFA as well if you want to. Okay. So let's just come here to Vishal, right? Let's copy this user ARN. Right. If I come to the dashboard, this is how I can sign in now as a user. Let me copy it here and let me paste it here. I'll show you what to do with it. Okay. Now I'll log out from here. Okay. There you go. And I click on this icon. So this is a user console through which I can sign in with a different user that I have. Okay. Okay. So this is the user ID. What was the name? It was Vishal. Okay. And what was the password? So guys, I've logged in as an administrator here, okay, with the account Vishal. Never. You see, it hasn't signed in as the main ID, that is tutorial, something that I use, right, for the demo. It has signed in from this ID, which is different, okay. So you might have wondered that I've been displaying all the passwords and stuff. You do not worry. I'm going to delete those user credentials once the demo is done. So there won't be any harm caused. You to make sure that you do not display your passwords to anyone. Okay. So let's go back to IAM. So we've created a user, right? So this way you can create different users who have different accesses to different resources, right? Then there's one more thing called as groups, right? So I've put forth groups here as well, right? So when you say a security group, now you've created a user who can do different things, right? Whether it can be a management console access or a programmatic access. So when I say a programmatic access, they can work with the data using APIs as well. Okay. Console access is something that keeps you limited to the AWS console. As a user, right, I might also be put into certain security groups. So when you say a group, you group similar people together. Say developers can be put into one group and they have similar kind of access to a particular resource, right? So that is what groups does. To do that, let me create one more user here. Let's call it demo user. Okay. And this time I give it just AWS Management Console access. So this is the password, right? This time it did not give me that key that I wanted, right? So I can just log into this demo user. Let's do that. Let's sign out. Let's say demo user. And this was the password. Let's see if I can sign in here, right? Oh, I will have to change the password here. See, that is why I do not click on that option which says that do you want to reset it, because then you have to remember your passwords and go through all this mess. Something that I'm going through right now. I hope it changes this time around. Yes, it has changed. And if I go to IAM, welcome. See, I'm not authorized to do any one of these. Why? Because this is a root user that I've created, right? So if I were to sign in here, let's say I log out from here for now. Okay. Now I sign in with my Vishal account, that is my administrator account. So I've signed into this account, right? So if I go to IAM now, I have access to quite a few things that I can do here, right? If I come here in groups, let's say I group actions. No group was created. So let's call it sample group. Okay. And I say create. In this group, I want to give somebody a particular set of access. So what is the set of access that I can give to people? So I can give access to people based to the services that you see, right? So code pipeline is one that is here, S3 demo. So I think these are the buckets that I have, right? So let me just say next, create a group. So whoever is in this bucket or in this group will have access to the buckets that I've mentioned. Okay. If I select this and add users to the group, I can add this demo user here, right? So demo user was the one who had limited access. Okay. So I add this user here. There you go. So the user has been added here. I know this has been a lot of to and fro where I log out, then sign in, but I want you to see something, right? Okay. There you go. So I've signed into this user now, right? So if I just come here, okay, and if I just open S3, Okay, so no access was given here. So I did something wrong there, right? So basically what I was trying to say is this is a plain user who has no access to anything. But if I just go ahead and give this user some IAM access, he should be able to do it. But for that, I'll have to again log into my admin account because right now this user is not authorized to do anything. Okay. You see, absolutely nothing to do. So even if I sign into EC2, right? Okay, I can launch some instances here. So by default, maybe it has that access. So basically you can control this, right? As an admin, I can decide what access goes to whom, right? Who controls what part of the resources and how do they work around it. So basically this is what my IAM does. So we've talked about what groups does. In groups, I can decide who gets to access what. Unfortunately, we did not give that user proper accesses, else we could have worked around it a little better. And these are the other things that we need to discuss. But before that, let's quickly, for one last time, sign out from here. Okay. And then log back in from our root account. The reason I want to do that is I want to delete all the resources that I've created. Okay. No, this is taking me to the AWS management console, normal console, log back in. So I'm signing into my root account now. The reason I'm doing that is I've already told you people why that is happening. So there you go. I'm just going to go ahead to IAM and remove these resources for now. I don't want them to be around. So I'm going to just go ahead and say delete these users for me. Yes, delete. Okay, and I'm going to go to groups and delete the group as well. So there you go. So we've actually gone ahead and see how do these things work. Now there are other pointers that you need to know, right? Roles and policies, right? So roles are something that basically concern applications. So when you talk about users, right? We talked about how users can have access to resources, but what about applications? How do they communicate with each other? So I can set in certain rules that decide how do these applications interact with other applications and users that are there. So controlling their access is something that comes under roles. Okay. And policies are something where you can actually code certain things. Okay. So when I say you can code certain things, I'm referring to the fact that as a user, you can actually go ahead and basically control as to what resources you can access using a particular piece of code. Say, for example, I'm writing a bucket policy. So I can write a bucket policy that says that after a particular duration, back up this data or replicate this data in some other bucket in some other region, right? So that is a bucket policy. So I can write such bucket policies. I can write such policies that tell me how do my applications interact with each other and what triggers to pull when I'm actually going ahead and using these applications, right? So this was about IAM and how to use them. Let us go back and talk about some other services that are there in our hand. Okay. Okay. So now let us go ahead and understand the other services that are there in your hands, right? So as I've mentioned, AWS gives you more access. So all we've discussed till time is who gets to access what are the users, what are security groups, what are policies, right? I believe I've also mentioned what multi-factor authentication is. If not, let me reiterate that for you, right? So when you say multi-factor authentication, right? To give you an example, these days what Google does is it gives you two-step authentication process. So when you say two-step authentication process, so basically one, you'll have to enter in your password as well, right? So your Gmail ID and your password is something that you enter. Once you log in, it would ask you for an OTP and it would connect you to your mobile phone. So if you've entered your mobile phone number, your SIM card number there, right? So it would throw in an OTP on your registered mobile number. Now that is where you actually go ahead and get information about, or you get an additional login to your so-called account, right? So that is what your multi-factor authentication does. It gives you more than one option to log into your resources that are there at your disposal. Okay. The other thing now we are going to go ahead and explore is what is WAF. Okay. So WAF is basically a firewall service that AWS offers, right? So as you can see on the screen, when you say WAF, this is some explanation that is given here. I'm not good with reading all these things, but if you are a technical person, you would know that basically what firewalls are, right? These help you protect your applications over a network from cyber threats, right? Network cyber threats. So WAF does exactly that for you. Okay. What it does is it helps you configure certain set of rules to allow, monitor, or even block web applications access request as per rules defined. Okay. So when you say WAF, it is also known as your web application firewall. Okay. What are the benefits it gives you? It basically lets you have agile protection against web attacks. So that means you have rule propagation and updates that take less than a minute to actually go ahead and let you update the security principle across your environment. So if there is any issue that arrives, that can be resolved within a minute, right? Since you have managed rules with you, it also helps you save a lot of time for you. Okay. Another important point that you need to know is it gives you more visibility in terms of traffic. And why does this happen? Because what it does is it gives you real-time visibility into web traffic that you can use to create new rules as well, and even for alerts. Now there's a service called as Amazon CloudWatch. Using it, you can create alerts or triggers. So if you meet a particular limit or if you set a particular threshold in AWS CloudWatch, and if that threshold is met, an alert would be thrown in right away, so that it ensures that if such alerts are thrown in, your network security is taken to a next level. Okay. So this was about AWS WAF, which basically stands for Web Application Firewalls. Next is your AWS KMS. Now KMS is basically a data encryption service. Okay. So if you are again a computer engineer or a networking student, you might have heard about data encryption, which is very crucial, right? I mean, if you talk about any source of data, basically, it is very important that you encrypt it before you move it over the network. Why is that? Because when your data moves over the network, that is where there is the largest chance for it being corrupted or it being caught up by someone and putting it under the corruption that you're not wanting it to go through. I talked about firewalls just right. So what firewalls do is they preserve your end-to-end networks, right? I mean, when I say end-to-end, not end-to-end, the ends of the network. To give you an example, let's assume that your data moves from network A to network B, or a point A in a network to point B. So point A and point B can be secured by firewalls. Those are like the entry gates. But what about the data that moves over the network between these two entry points, right? So this is where encrypting your data ensures that even if your data is caught up over the network, not anybody can just go ahead and make changes to it. You'd be needing your public and private key to encrypt this data and then get access to all the data that is there. So that is what KMS does for you, right? I mean, it ensures that your data is secure by encryption. So as you can read in the definition, it is a common practice to preserve your data over networks. With Amazon KMS, you can safely encrypt your data that moves over the AWS Cloud Platform network, and your keys are also kept safe by using hardware security modules. So this is an added layer of security to ensure even your keys are secured when you talk about your AWS platform. What are the benefits that you have in your hand? These services are fully managed, right? I mean, whether you talk about the access, that is the only thing that you control to your encrypted data, right? You can control certain parameters, but whether you talk about defining permissions or doing other things, AWS can enforce these things for you. Now, there's something called as central key management. What it does is it gives you a center point of control where you can control all these pointers. What kind of access do you want to give it? How do you want to give that access to it and stuff like that? Okay. And this happens from a central point. So you have this central point of management that ensures that there is one place where you can control all these things. You can even manage the encryption for your services, right? So there are quite a few integrations that AWS offers, and it simplifies the process how you use these keys to encrypt your data and also manage the AWS workloads. The other thing that you need to know is you can encrypt data in your applications as well. So what this does is it also supports encryption for SDKs to enable that, or basically to actually go ahead and enable the use of KMS protected data encryption keys to encrypt your data locally. Okay. You can digitally sign in as well, and it ensures that all these things happen at a very low cost. So this was about your KMS, right? Next, you have your AWS Shield in hand. So when you say AWS Shield, again, it is something that helps you control DDoS attack. Let me tell you what a DDoS attack is. Okay. To give you an example, let's assume that you are trying to log into a particular website, but you just cannot log in. I'll give you more specific example to this. Let's assume that there's a live session happening on a particular channel. Okay. Say, for example, it is happening on GoToWebinar or something like Zoom. So this will have a limit of somewhere around 500 users or 1000 users. Okay. What I've done is I've actually gone ahead and sent in a link to the users who I want them to attend my session. So in this case, let's assume that there are like 1000 people that I've shared the link to, and the limit for the software offers is like 500 users. So once I have 500 users trying to access that resource, and after that, if somebody else tries to log in, that person will not get ability or would not be allowed to log into that system or that session. Why is that? Because I've reached the maximum limit. Now, when you talk about DDoS attack, it works in similar fashion. Let's assume that you want to log into some website or something, or do something that is on priority for you. But what some users do is, people who want to fail a particular application from working, they'll throw in a DDoS attack. Now, a DDoS attack, what it does is it throws in some pseudo requests, and it throws in those pseudo requests at such a pace that you will just not be able to log in, because there would always be a pseudo request there, forcing you to get denial or basically denied of that service. That is why it is called as distributed denial of service access. That means you won't be able to access into resources. What AWS Shield does is it basically ensures that your system is free from DDoS attacks. So it comes with 2 levels of protection and multi-level authentication. So unless and until you are a fraud user, unless and until you are a genuine user, you won't be able to log in. Fraud users would be filtered there and there in the network itself, and you won't face distributed denial of service issues. Okay. So this was about AWS Shield. Then we have our Trusted Advisor. So when you talk about Trusted Advisor, it acts as an inspector. Okay. So when I say an inspector, basically a Trusted Advisor is something that monitors your applications on top of cloud, in this case, AWS. So this individual service is basically responsible for inspecting your AWS environment to make recommendations that help save money, improve system performance, and even clear security gaps. So it analyzes your security that is there in your hand, right? And basically actually goes ahead and even makes suggestions as in how can you improve the security of your applications. So that is what Trusted Advisor does for you. So guys, this was about different AWS security services. I hope the idea of how AWS security services work is clear to you people.
If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, I want to request you to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any new update or video releases from Great Learning. If you enjoyed this video, show us some love and like this video. Knowledge increases by sharing, so make sure you share this video with your friends and colleagues. Make sure to comment on the video for any query or suggestions, and I will respond to your comments.